Many times wealth planning is talking about specific items as part of your wealth plan that you may not necessarily want to talk about or deal with. Well, today is one of those topics that we are going to be talking about: incapacity planning. So coming up on Enriching Wealth, we'll be discussing everything related to incapacity planning, the directives for not only the healthcare side of things, but also your financial well-being. Welcome back. It is nice having you. We have a lot to get to when it comes to incapacity planning. Now, this is something, like I have been talking to many of you, is not something that we want to be really going through, talking about. It's mostly something we want to be avoiding. Well, it is actually something, though, that I have been spending more and more of my time with my personal family and some of my close friends discussing. As we not only have parents that are getting older, we ourselves are looking to make sure that in case something happens to us, whether we are incapacitated and unable to make decisions, that we can provide the correct documentation and the correct planning to make sure that the loved ones that we are kind of leaving as part of that are taken care of. That is really what I want to be focused on today, and the topic of a lot of the planning that we do as part of your estate planning can come back to a good and proper incapacity planning as well. So let's take a look at things here. Let's dive into kind of the details surrounding incapacity planning. There are two specific aspects that I want you to be familiar with. The first one is anything related to the healthcare side of incapacity planning, and the second one would be anything related to the financial aspect of incapacity planning. That is basically the things that we need to be looking forward. And let's take this in step. So let's start with that healthcare side. Now, the healthcare is a very distinct piece that we want to make sure, no matter if you are just starting out in life in your 20s, if you have children and you're in your 40s that you want to be planning for, or if you are in that next chapter of life, when the kids have left home, when you have retired, and we are looking for the next aspect of what you want to be doing. It all comes back down to making sure that the framework, at least for your incapacity planning, is taken care of. Well, the very first piece that I want everyone to really have in place is the healthcare power of attorney. Now, what a healthcare power of attorney does is it really talks about allowing an individual, one that you have already pre-selected, to make decisions on your behalf. So this individual now can be making the decisions that are going to be appropriate for your type of care and what is needed. Now, that's also something that they can go too far. So even though they have a lot of decision-making capability, things that you have wanted them, you have gifted to them basically as part of this power of attorney, well, you also can go too far in saying these may not be your wishes. So we want to tie in a healthcare power of attorney with a healthcare directive. Now, this healthcare directive side of things is actually saying that this is a way that you can be giving some wishes in place, ones that your power of attorney will honor, and ones that the doctors who are giving you care will honor. Now, this is something that could be just as simple as if something happens to me and I'm in a vegetative state, pull the plug. So it could be something as simple as that to a lot more complex in saying the level of care, what you want, how you want the care to be done, and then that takes some of the burden off of the power of attorney for those decisions. But that doesn't mean that if we have the healthcare directive that we don't need a power of attorney. Many times the power of attorney is going to be able to figure out the correct course of treatment, the ways in which we're going to be using medications that are going to be beneficial to you. All of that comes back to the power of attorney. So we have the power of attorney. We have the everything related to the directive. And then the last aspect that we really want to be having here as part of anything related to your health plan is just making sure that we have everything related to where we want to go for your health, your directives, putting it all together. And that's going to be the biggest aspect here that comes back to making sure that your healthcare is taken care of, that we have everything that we need for planning for the healthcare side of things. So that's a big piece of it. Now, let's kind of jump forward here. We have your financial side. And a lot of you have one way, shape, or form part of the incapacity planning for your financial side taken care of already. A lot of times that starts with a will. Now, a will is something that, well, in general, is for when you pass. The wishes of how you want your assets to go to the people that you care about. So it's never solely just about your healthcare side of things or incapacity planning, but it's a big piece that can be used for incapacity planning as well. So I want you to be familiar with and having a will just for those pieces of planning for your incapacity, and maybe even the will start dictating of how your assets will be gifted prior to you actually passing. That's a first piece of a great financial side for incapacity planning. Now, just like we had the healthcare directives, we can have one for your financial life as well. Now, we can have a financial power of attorney. So now we can say, well, we have someone that's able to make and pay bills, make decisions on the financial front on your behalf, and it can now be put forth that in maybe even sometimes have it as what's called a springing power of attorney, that it's only can be gifting those people the ability to be your power of attorney for financials in the event and when you are capacitated. So it's not going to be something that is always there and you're not gifting it to them all the time. But there are some that you can. So make sure that you have that spelled out. But a springing power of attorney is one that will be able to be kind of put into place in the event of your capacity. So they're, again, ones that are able to pay bills, do things that are needed there. So we have the will. We have your power of attorney, that's financial directive. So again, we have the healthcare directive side of things, and we have the financial care side of things. That is a big piece as well. So those are two critical elements of making sure they're taken care of on the financial front. Now, the third piece that is a really good thing to have when it comes to talking about incapacity, again, we're talking about your wishes here as well, your financial wishes, is a living trust. Now, a living trust is one that can be changed. It can be molded. It can be ever evolving over the years. So it's not just a static set it and forget it. It's something that we have the ability to change, put assets into it, and take assets out of it. Well, because of that, we can figure out and make changes to your incapacity planning along the way. So we can put language in the document, in this trust, that says any of the assets that are in the trust, in the event of my incapacity, here's what I want to have happen. Here's who is going to be making all the decisions on my behalf as part of the trust. This can be something separate than the financial power of attorney. So the financial power of attorney can be maybe, say, bank accounts and paying some bills. The person that's in charge of the trust can be maybe more important with how we manage the assets, how we're going to be distributing them not only today, but in the future. That all comes back to the trustee that is kind of put into place with incapacity. And again, since we can make changes, we can make these things how you want it to be, We can make one that is this person that is going to be there for incapacity planning different than the one that would be for anything related to passing that you have. So there's two distinct ways that we can be working with the same type of trust. Now again, that all comes back down to the planning that you can have, the ways in which you can be planning correctly for your future and your wealth and your health. That's a big piece of a great way that you can be protecting your family. So with that, I want to thank you for watching this video, and please check out the other videos here, and we will be looking forward to seeing you soon.